Japan squad for the Rugby World Cup 2023, folks, is out. It's a couple of days late, this video, but the squad's been in kind of two parts with the naming. They initially named 30 guys, with the final 3 spots to be confirmed as they worked out who was going to be fit. There was a cloud of injury above a couple of guys. And then they've now added 4 guys in, which you would think makes 34, but then they dropped one of the initial guys out. So there does seem to be a precedent set for naming guys in a World Cup squad and then dropping them. We'll see how other squads go about this kind of situation as well. But we'll go through the squad pretty quick, the fixtures, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. So Horie, Horikoshi, and Sakate, that is your hooker trio. Horie is certainly the big-time veteran of this one at 37 and 70-plus caps, but Sakate seems to be the leading candidate. He's captained the side before as well. Horikoshi has been in the Japanese mix for a long time, but has only amassed 7 caps among that time. Valu, Inagaki, Halasili, Kakinaga, and Millar. So they've gone with 6 props, including a potential debutant in Halasili. I admit to having not seen that guy play. I know that he's, I think, a Tongan guy who's about 120 kilos, so hopefully he can do a job at scrum time, because that's why you're there, but that's certainly a pretty deep end way to come into the competition. The guys like Inagaki, like Gu, formerly known as Ku, and even Millar at this point, even Kakinaga too, are kind of the veteran guys. It's a relatively old set of props, but I mean, props tend to get better with age, don't they? So, I mean, there's only Gu, who's 29, and the rest of them are all in their 30s. So, yeah, experience in the front row for Japan. You've got to wonder how their front row will look at the next World Cup, how many of these guys will still be going. But if Horie as a hooker is 37 still going, some of the other guys may be able to keep up as well. Locks, Dearns, Helu, Saumaki, and then Cornelsen, who's kind of a hybrid lock loose forward. There were doubts about Dearns and Helu, and I should say most of this information comes from Rich Freeman, to be honest. He seems to be one of the few kind of English language Japan rugby pundits out there. But yeah, there was doubts over those 2 guys, but they have both been named in the squad. But then James Moore was the guy who was initially named, who drops out. And the only things that they've put in as to why he's dropped out is he was in bad condition. Makes him sound like, you know, you're buying something off eBay, like an old rugby jersey. I'll give it a bad review because it wasn't in good condition. So yeah, apparently a poor condition. Yeah, so I'm not sure what that means. Was he sick? Was he not fit? Was he injured? But either way, he's out. And they've added a few guys in. They've confirmed the likes of Helu. And then loose forwards, Fukui, Gunter, Himeno, Labuschagne, and Leitch. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting one, because among the locks and loose forwards, you've got Saumaki, who's one of your new guys, who, again, I haven't seen play. But for a lock, which he's listed as, he's pretty short at 189. That's shorter than me. And 108 kilos, which is probably slightly heavier than me, but not by a heck of a lot. And then, yeah, Dearns is the only guy who's kind of a bit of tall timber at kind of 2 meters plus. Helu is certainly a veteran at 33, and Cornelsen has been kind of a mainstay of the Jamie Joseph Japan side as well. I do like the look of Shota Fukui. He's one of those few guys in this squad who seems to be genuinely like a homegrown, young, talented player who's just kind of come onto the scene. Like, I would have thought with the Japan League One that we would see more players like that. You know, the kind of homegrown talent coming in. But I'm not sure if they're there and Jamie Joseph's not picking them because I haven't seen the competition. I'm sure there are. But at 23 years old, he's had that 1 cap, and then plus he played against the All Blacks 15 as well. He genuinely seems like a real kind of busy, high work rate tackling machine player, which is pleasing. But then you get that from Labuschagne as well. Although keeping in mind Labuschagne is going to be banned for 2 more games that Japan play with his red card. So yeah, and then Himeno is a high work rate player as well, as was Gunter. So with Gunter, Fukui, and Labuschagne, you've essentially got 3 kind of tackling machine players. And then Himeno, with his ability at the breakdown, will maybe have to be kind of doing that fetching role. And then, yeah, Leitch may be a bit of the old playmaking with his offloads and whatnot. But, yeah, we'll see how they line up the back row. The main omissions from the forwards, I mean, is Moore, who was initially named and dropped out. Amato Fakatava looked pretty good from what we saw of him. The big lock scored a couple of tries, but he's had a foot injury, so it seems like he's not made it. I feel like he would have made it if he was fit, but his injury means he's not made it. I'm assuming it's the injury because, as I said, from what we saw of him, seems like a pretty talented guy. And then Tavita Tatafu is genuinely like a big ball-carrying number 8, but I guess from the look of things, that role is going to be filled by Himeno, because he can do that as well. Maybe not quite as kind of out-and-out wrecking ball. Himeno is more of I don't want to say jack of all trades, because he can do some things quite well. He's a good ball carrier and he's a good fetcher, but they don't have that kind of Billy Vunipola, style number 8 in the squad without Tavita Tatafu. So, yeah, that's the forward pack. Backs-wise, they've gone with 3 halfbacks in Fukuda, Nagari, and Saito. Most sides are going with 3. If you're South Africa, you go with 4. But Fukuda is an interesting one because he's another one of the uncapped guys. Taking an uncapped halfback to the World Cup is certainly a big call. But then Saito and Nagare are, well-established guys alongside him. It means Shigeno misses out. He's kind of one of the veterans. But, yeah, I guess we'll see what comes of Fukuda, if he gets any minutes or if he's kind of just left in the wings as the third-choice guy. And then three tens. They did mention in Rich Freeman's article that they were going with, 6 specialist props and then 6 specialists in terms of 9s and 10s. So that's why they've had to pick some more versatile guys in other positions. Maybe that's also why Tatafu misses out, because he's more or less a specialist number 8, whereas the likes of a Himeno and a Leitch can cover different positions in the back row. But they've gone with Matsuda, Lee, and Ogura as the 3 10s. I don't think we haven't seen much of Ogura in recent times, but he used to play for the Sunwolves a while back. And he pretty much plays either 10 or he's been on the bench for Japan when he has played. Lee has been the kind of recent emergent guy at only 22 years old. He got a lot of game time with Japan last week, and he led the way in that series against France and whatnot. So he has been getting some game time. Not the biggest guy. Defensively can be exposed, but playmaking-wise and goal-kicking seems to do the job. So we'll see how they go in that area. And then midfield, Nakamura, Nakano, Osada, and Riley. I've been pleased with Osada, actually, if I'm talking about guys who have kind of bolted onto the scene. At least for me, they're a bolter, because I haven't really seen them before. But they've come out of the Japan with League One, because all these guys play the rugby in Japan. There's no guys based in Super Rugby or based in Europe. Certainly some guys with that experience, but all these guys are based in Japan. So Osada, he's had 3 tests now, all recently, and he looks, quick. He's got wheels, and dangerous ball carrier. Riley seems to be their mainstay at 13, and then Nakamura's your veteran. So we'll see how they line up. And then outside backs for Fita, Lemeki, Matsushima, Masarewa, and Nakabula. Lemeki is an interesting call because I don't think he was even in the direct Japan squad as of a few weeks ago, but he's into the World Cup squad, 34 years old. He's a veteran. Fafita has been one of their kind of preferred attacking wing options in recent times, and then Nakabula has seemingly played his way into Japan's starting 15 in recent times as well. He's got 3 caps all pretty recently. Masarewa is another one of the kind of veterans at 31, but internationally he's not had that many caps. And then Matsushima, veteran of the last campaign. He has played a bit of rugby in Europe on the back of his good performances with Japan at the last World Cup. So, I guess Matsushima's going to be fullback, unless they play one of the 10s at fullback, like an Ogura or something like that. But, Yamanaka seems to be the obvious guy that misses out. But in terms of them picking versatile instead of specialist players, maybe he is a guy who kind of misses out in that regard. He's a veteran at 35 as well as old Yamanaka. So, it's an interesting one. Like I mentioned, Jamie Joseph's in kind of an awkward position at the moment in that he knows he's going to his next job at the Highlanders. Recent results haven't been great. Japan's been lacking game time since the last World Cup. They, like many of the other non-Six Nations and Rugby Championship countries, have been kind of starved of game time. Japan maybe had it a bit better than some of the other teams. Like they did get to play the British and Irish Lions. They got to play Ireland in some test series. They got France to play. So they've had some decent tests, but certainly not as much as some of the other teams. I would have kind of liked to have seen them more. And you guys who watch Japan League One will have to tell me, there must be other guys that are not getting a shot based on the Japan League One form, but more guys like a Fukui and Fukuda and the midfielder Osada, like guys who have come through the Japanese system and are just ready to have a crack internationally. So they've brought in a few guys like Nakabula, but at 29 years old, that seems to be kind of a short-term gap-filling thing. Same with Masarewa. Even bringing in Lameki, like these guys at 34, 31, 29, they're not going to be around for another World Cup cycle, you would imagine. Never know, but yeah. James Moore, Amato Fakatava, Tavira Tatafu, and Ryohei Yamanaka seem to be the main kind of omissions from the squad. If you want Japan jerseys, they sell them at Level Rugby. They look pretty slick. I should probably update my Japan jersey at some point, but anyway, Japan jerseys at Level Rugby. Check out the link in the description. They're an affiliate of the channel, so if you are going to buy a Japan jersey, consider using that link. That'll help me out. But yeah, they have got Italy in a warm-up game, then Chile. So the 2 games to build some form, because form has been lacking with Japan. And then I say Chile is a game to build some form. That's maybe taking Chile a bit lightly. But yeah, they need to win the Chile game, absolutely, because then you've got England, then you got Samoa, and then you got Argentina. So you need to beat Chile, and then you need to win one of either England and Argentina. And remember, they lost recently to Samoa. So it seems like kind of a hard road, those final 3 games. The Samoa one will be genuinely interesting. Japan's going to go in as big-time underdogs against England and Argentina. But England's been in bad form, so who knows? They need to find a way to win, don't they? That's the nature of the beast with Rugby World Cups. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on the Japanese squad. Let us know the likes of a Saumaki and a Fukuda, if you've seen them play in Japan, what they're like. And Halasili as well, the prop. But yeah, it should be pretty interesting to see how they go. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.